The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to TLC's latest edition of our Webinar Wednesday series. My name is Jamison Reynolds and I'm the Director of Marketing Strategy for the Library Corporation. Thank you for all attending today. Today's session is Everyone Can Build a List, Utilizing Lists and Actions. This is a session that will be presented by Phil Green, a member of our sales team. And what is interesting about today's session is this session is showing an actual piece of our functionality within a module called LS2 Staff. Called Lists and Actions. So when we're referring to Lists and Actions, you are going to see a piece of functionality and software found directly within our Library.Solution platform. So for those of you that are utilizing LS2, Library.Solution, this will be functionality that hopefully you've seen and utilized, and you're coming here to make sure of everything that it has to offer. And for those of you that may be using the Carl platform or another ILS or library management software, this could be something new and interesting for you to see. So I'm going to go ahead and pass to Phil. Phil, please take it away.
All right, thanks, Jamison. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar about Lists and Actions. Again, my name is Phillip Green here with the Library Corporation. I'm a member of the sales team, but have also worked within the support department and also the training department. So we hope to be able to show you all aspects of this interface and be able to answer any questions that may come up during the presentation. So today's goal is to provide examples of how staff members can use lists and actions within Library.Solution for many different purposes. And the couple of things that we're going to key in on are that you can provide access to lists and actions without over permissioning. So you don't need to give away too much access to staff members who may want to use lists and actions. We hope to familiarize you with lists and actions a bit more if you aren't so already, or to show you a feature that you may have not even realized you have access to. And then we're going to take a look at some of the most popular lists that TLC customers use and hopefully give you some ideas on what types of lists to generate, which you can then use to take action upon in your library. Now let's start off with a short poll. We're just going to put this up for about 30 seconds here. I'd like to find out how many folks are using lists and actions, or maybe a few staff members do. Or again, if you're not a Library.Solution ILS user, we'd like to know that too, just so we can speak in more generalities. But also, hopefully, if you're not using Library.Solution, you'll have some ideas on ways you can utilize other tools you have available with your existing system. Okay, good. Checking out the color-coded bar here, I see that nearly half the folks here in the talk today are using lists and actions, but about a quarter of you are not, that appear to be TLC customers. So that's awesome to know that hopefully we're going to be able to give you guys some new ideas and show you some features that you can take advantage of starting today. All right. So we just have to start up here again. There we are. So what is List and Actions and why should we be using it? Again, most of you have already used it or are aware of it, but List and Actions is an on-the-fly or sometimes referred to as an ad hoc reporting tool. It allows or enables quick retrieval of data in the system without having to access LS2 reports. And you can provide access to Lists and Actions to any staff member you like with no additional reports licenses required. So it does not cost anything extra to use Lists and Actions. So this will enable anyone that administrators give permission to assist with many different daily tasks and routines throughout the library without giving away the keys to the castle. And it's hopefully going to enable more collaboration and improve workflows within your library. Now, I'd just like to spend a moment to further reinforce without giving away keys to the castle. What I mean there is, again, List and Actions is placed within LS2 Staff, so you don't need to go outside the Staff module, and you're not giving away access to LS2 Reports, which contains personal information and PII about your customers and patrons. Staff members will not have access to any type of financial or operational data. They will not have access to administration or patron notification information. And all list and actions information, again, is based upon collection, statistics, usage, things that help you improve organization in the library and see how the library resources are being used without going, again, into that LS2 reports interface. Now, if you're not currently using list and actions, or TLC set this up for you originally and you're not sure how to allow other users to access list and actions, it's very easy. You would access LS2 preferences, which is our web-based administration interface, and you will simply navigate to the security settings, navigate to roles, and then choose the staff role that your members are part of. Scroll down, locate the list and actions option, and simply click enable and then save the change. So it's very easy. Any administrator can have access to this that has access to preferences, and will be able to enable this feature for your staff members. And as always, if you have any questions or need assistance, please feel free to contact support. This is something very easy we can help you with very quickly. Now, let's take a look at some of our most popular list and actions features and filters to run. Count of circulations. So this is a really straightforward list and action that we can operate on. And should we buy more items, or should we weed these items, are typically the conversation that comes out of that list. Out of date information. Maybe we're taking some time to go through the library and look for old science materials or reference manuals or materials that might be out of date. We'll take a look at an example of that as well. Items by status. Many times patrons claim they bring items back, or say they never checked an item out, or you find items that magically appear in the library. So we're going to take a look at running a list of items by status for in-transit lost and missing items, and hopefully you can go find those on the shelves during some downtime. Something else we can do is generate a list of items to transfer possibly to storage or another collection or branch, utilizing the item transfer feature. So we can use list and actions in collaboration with another tool within LS2 Staff. We're going to take a look at generating a list of audiobooks. We're going to look at new materials by format type and talk about when that might be applicable. We're also going to take a look at item availability by a particular author, or items that have been recently added that you'd like to generate a list for. And then lastly, we'll take a look at the value of items or collections. So that leads me to the second poll question, and that is, are you using RFID or security tags? This is a list in action function that's going to be really handy for you folks that are. So let's open up that poll for just a moment. All right, so that one's split just about 50-50 down the middle. Fantastic. So half the folks here are going to be able to use list and actions to take a look at items. They can go back into the stacks and look for security tags on. And then we're going to have several folks that might consider what you can do with this list in the future if you move to security tags or RFID. All right, so let's close out of the PowerPoint here and actually go look at list and actions. Again, this is in LS2 Staff. So once we get logged in, once the permission is turned on for your staff member, the list and actions tab will now appear. So I'm going to take a look at those top reports that I just mentioned a moment ago, and we're going to do them in order. So let's start off with a really simple one. We click on items because we're going to build a new list of items. And let's take a look at checkouts. We use the plus symbol to add that filter into the list. So let's take a look at total checkouts greater than 5 after a specified date. I'm going to go back one full year because in my test database, I don't have a ton of circulation information. So we're going to go back 1 year. And then also let's take a look at just my specific location. One tip here to note is that when you are logged in, you can see I'm currently logged in at my main branch. By default, the location filter will be automatically set to your main branch or the branch you're currently logged in at. So let's run that search. Okay, so I have 32 items which meet that requirement of circulations greater than 5 in the last year. Now, we also are working with a flex grid here in LS2 Staff. Several screens within LS2, including the list in action screen, is a flex grid. So I can actually right click, and if I'm not interested in things like reading program information in this list, or the language, or the inventory date added, etc., some circulation information we don't need, you can actually go through here and remove the pieces of information that you don't need. Now you can see I have far less information on the screen to scroll through. And you can also sort anything by the column heading. Any column can be sorted by clicking on that title of the column. So now I maybe want to add this to a list. And we'll call this top search for fiscal year 2020, because we ran from June to June. And my description, C title. So you can have any type of title or description you like here. Now I also want to touch on what these options down below mean. We have the save column layout. I'm going to choose that one because that will retain the order and the columns which were appearing on the screen. The ones I unchecked and removed, they will no longer appear. I'm going to save the sorting order, and I'm going to share this with other staff members. So other staff members that have access to list and actions will be able to see this search. So let's save this list. All right, so I've saved that list, and I can go back and view that at a later time. Or from here, what I can do is I can go ahead and export that list out to Excel or your favorite spreadsheet software, and then I can apply additional sorting and filtering here, or simply print the list. All right. Now let's say we want to edit this list here, this search. We want to go back and we're gonna flip the script here. Let's see search less than 5. I don't need to delete the other parameters or start over. I'm just going to take a look at less than 5 in the same time period and search again. And now I get 18. So again, same options. I can choose to select all of them. I can export. I can add them to a list. Or let's say I like to save the search to use again in the future. A moment ago, I saved a list. That becomes a static list, which does not change. I can save the search, and I'm going to put a little bit more information in here. Low search for FY20. This is items with less than 5 circs from June 19 through June 20. And the reason I provided a more detailed description here is that this list can then be ran again in real time. So other users that may want to come back and save, use the save search, they'll have more criteria and more information about what the search was based on. And we're going to take a look at those saved searches in just a few minutes. Another one that is very popular is the ability to create lists by publication date. So as I mentioned earlier, what we might want to take a look at is items in a particular collection. So in this case, I'm going to use my reference collection as an example. So what my goal right now is, we'd like to find items that may be out of date. So we'll say anything published from 1900 to 1950, 1950 in my reference collection, and I get 21 items. Now I can see here, I'm going to expand this column because again, flexible grids allow you to expand, contract, move, resort, etc. So I can see that it looks like many of these are Oxford dictionaries. So I probably don't want to do anything with them because the dictionary, there's probably very little reason for us to change the dictionary regardless of the year it was published, because I'm sure we're adding more and more each year. What I do want to take a look at though is maybe figure out what these 2 items are because I don't quite recognize them. If I need more information, I come over to the item barcode and I simply click and I get taken over to the staff tab with my titles and items. I can get more information about the item, the title, some information regarding the title, the number of copies and where they're located, even some circulation data here. So if I need to switch back and forth from list and actions over to the title and item screen to get more data, I can do that without losing my work. I click list and actions. You can see I go back to where I just left from. Now, another list that's very popular for, like I mentioned earlier, this could be you mysteriously find items on your shelf. You're trying to locate items that may or may not be in the library, things that have an unusual status. We're going to take a look at the items by status. So let's take a look at status of items. And I'm going to look at everything that's considered lost or missing. I'm going to ignore these couple because they're binary. So we're going to take a look at all lost and missing items. And I'm going to choose my location of my main branch. And I'm going to run that search. So, and excuse me, we have 135 results. This could be a list that we'd like to go out into the stacks and look for these items to see if they've mysteriously made their way back onto the shelf, because patrons from time to time, I'm sure you guys know, might try to sneak your books back into the library. So what I'm going to do with this is actually, I'm going to bring over the shelf location information here. And then I'm also going to sort them by the status. So I've sorted by the status, and I've also brought over the shelf location information for those 135 to make this list a little bit easier to read through. Now I'm going to show another feature here, and that is combining lists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to a new list. So these are my lost or missing items as of June 17th. Please see description. And again, we're going to save those layouts and that sorting, and we're going to let this list get shared with other users. And I'm going to save. Now, let's say I'd like to get some information about items at a different branch. So we can simply change Gordonsville and remove main library. We're going to change to Gordonsville and search again. And Gordonsville is doing a little bit better. They only have 19 items lost or missing. So we're going to take these items, and I don't want a separate list. I want to combine these lists. So there's many different times you might want to combine outputs from list and actions and join lists together. So I'm going to add these to a list, not create a new, but add to list. And now we're going to look at lost or missing items as of June 1st. I just click to highlight and choose add. And I added those 19 items. So now we're going to take a look at the lists of output. So we come to list and searches. We can either search by a title. So we can key in on the word June. And here is my lost or missing for June 17th. Or I can browse that list. And here are my lost or missing items as of June 17th. You can see I've now combined that 130 with 6 items with those 19 items. I have 154 items. When looking at the retrieve the list, you can also edit the information about the list. Or if I'm no longer using it, I can delete that list. So that will no longer be displayed in the list of outputs. Now also, let's take a look at another popular list here, and that is taking a look at new items and their availability. Your pack might be configured. If you're a TLC customer, I know it's configurable. If you're a non-TLC customer, I believe other ILSs still work in this manner. Your pack may be configured to only show items, say, cataloged in the last 14 days, 30 days, 60 days. But for very popular items that might not even have time to hit the shelf before a hold gets placed on them, or items that are turning over very quickly, and you want to be able to share a list of new items with staff members or patrons, this may be helpful for you. So let's take a look at new items. So we'll use the date added feature. And again, because I'm in a test database, we're going to roll this back a little ways so I can get some results. And I'm going to use my format. And I'm going to look for projected materials. So I want anything that's a DVD or Blu-ray. And let's search for that. So I get 13 items that meet that criteria. So I have 13 new items in the last 2 years. Now let's also add in that availability filter. So let's use status, and let's take a look at available. and I get 12. So I now have a very accurate list of items that have been recently cataloged, that are projected materials that have been identified as a stash is available. So you should be able to walk out to the stacks and find this item right away. Let's take a look at a similar report here. Now I'm going to clear those two filters, but I'm going to leave my date added filter because I'm going to use that recently added filter. I don't need to go back and delete it and start all over. What we're going to do is take a look at now. I'm going to look at new items by particular author. Let's use contains Grisham. And I get one item to meet that criteria. So this is handy even if you have a patron walking up and just asking, hey, what's your newest John Grisham books? Maybe they had an issue with the pack, they're not comfortable with the pack, or they just like working with you as an individual. So new items by author, very popular as well. Moving on, we're going to take a look at another report here that's very popular, and that is being able to use the language filter. So what I'm going to do here is take a look at audiobooks for our multilingual patrons. So let's look at Spanish audiobooks, and we get a list of 28 items. So that's really handy. You might have a patron come in and ask because, again, they may not be familiar with the pack, or they're looking for something specific. They like to work with you, or they are looking for something that's available now. Again, you can use that availability feature. You can combine all the different filters really in any way you like. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, another one that's very popular for our customers that are using RFID or security tags, and that is the price filter. So what I like to do typically, it's very common that items usually around $100 or more are going to be tagged based on my experience. So we're going to take a look at items over a specific amount, and I'm going to use my location filter. Right now I'm just going to work at a specific site, my main library, search again. And I have 486 items that meet that criteria. So again, because I'm working with just the pricing information, I'm not concerned about, say, the circulation information, when it was published, what the format is, or the author. I'm just concerned with things like title, location. We don't need the overdue status there. So we're going to clean this up really nice and neat here. I'm going to take those 486 items and export them to Excel, or again, your favorite spreadsheet tool, and now I have a list that I'm ready to print out, save, email, send to another staff member. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on, I mentioned this a minute ago, when I come back to my list of list in action reports, when I'm browsing, I wanted to point out, because we do get this question from time to time, if you see a little piece of paper, that is a static list, meaning when I click on that, that is simply going to retrieve the results of the previous list in action report that we've run. If I come back and take a look at one with the little magnifying glass, what that's going to do is actively run that search again. So I click that, that's going to run that search all over again to get me brand new fresh data. So you can see I get 4,241 items. Let's say, for instance, I come in here and I flip over to staff services. I'm going to delete this item because, again, I have permission to do so. Now I'm going to come back to list in actions, and I'm going to run this again. $4,240. So you can see instantaneously, just like that, list in actions sorted through my entire database, and it already found that change that I made. So that's the advantage to saving the searches to be used at a later time. You can come back and run them as often as you like, and list in actions is running very quickly to retrieve you those updated results. So that's what I have for you for covering the top reports and functions and actions within list in actions. I'm going to switch it back over here to Justin and Jameson.
All right, Phil, thank you.
And let those guys take back over.
Thank you for today's session. This was very good and a very nice deep dive into list in actions. we a couple of minutes to get in some questions if they do have any questions for you or for us. While you were actually doing your presentation, we did get a question that came in, and it was literally the last thing you covered regarding the difference between static lists and doing a search. So just to reiterate, you do have the ability to have a static list versus a saved search, which would then bring back if, let's say, the criteria of what was searched for had changed. So I did want to mention that. We did get another question, Phil. Can you filter by Dewey number?
Call number is an option that you have in there. We can pop back over and take a look at that real quick. So you have your, I'm sorry, standard number, I apologize. You do have standard number here that you can use in list and actions. Actually, I meant to leave this up on the screen so everyone can take a peek before I flip back over to our wrap-up slide. So I'm going to leave this on the screen so everyone can see all the different options and filters you have. And just like LS2 reports, you can run this at any time you like. This will not degrade the performance of your system or slow down or lock records or prevent you from checking in or checking out while someone is using the list and actions feature.
Excellent. Now, Phil, we will give everybody another couple of seconds to see if they have any questions. If not, we may be able to go ahead and wrap up this session. But again, we should give everybody a minute. And we did get one more question. When you share a list, can you designate who it gets shared to?
Sharing is a feature of list and actions itself. So the staff member will either have access to the list that you have shared or they will not. So any staff member with access to list and actions, if you use the share option, all staff members will have access to it that are that have access to list and actions at your branch or library.
Okay, we just got another question as well. Can you check for a series? We are putting series together in Sci-Fi on Excel.
Yes, series is a filter that can be used within list and actions. So yes, you can search by series.
Can we sort by last checkout date?
Oh, let's take a look. I know there is circulation data there, but the date itself, we have, let's see here. We have checkouts in a date range, but it looks like the circ data is going to simply show that's going to simply show the number of circulations, or you can choose to look at circulations within a period or time frame. So it doesn't look like last circ date. That is something that you would be able to run a report on in LS2 reports.
Can you create a list to search for patrons at your location?
So at this time, list and actions is still based all on title and item data and some circulation data. Patron data is still accessible only in LS2 reports. I don't know if Jameson has any additional information on that. I don't believe patron functionality is currently planned in list and actions.
Correct. And because you do have, for those that have the permissible rights to access that through reports, you can pull specific reporting information. The purpose of list and actions were people and circ operators to be able to generate information based on list and actions without potentially compromising an easy borrower permission and privacy issue.
And I think we had one other question that came in actually just as we open up the questions. Can we create a list for missing items and will it automatically update if the item comes back? If you have saved the search and you're running the search again with the little magnifying glass, yes, that is looking at the status of the item in real time. If you're simply saving it as a static list, which was designated by the sheet of paper, that would not change.
sometimes when I run a report on LS reports, I get different results than if I run a list search. Why would this happen?
So I would probably submit a support ticket for that. List and actions and LS2 reports do look at, I'd say 99% of the same database tables, but there are a few differences between the two interfaces. So I would probably submit a support ticket. There may be an anomaly there, or it could be that we have a updated report or an out-of-date report that is looking at different data than list and actions.
And if I could jump in as well, Phil, you could also be looking at an issue where you have different tables of data within the database being indexed differently based on the report versus list and actions. So that's also something as well to see how the actual report itself was configured to run and grab data. Can we sort by title with checked out?
We could certainly look at items that have a high checkout rate, and we could sort the list and action result by the title. That would be, I would think, something pretty simple. So if we looked at total checkouts greater than, and we'll just use a low number here so we get a lot of results. And we can again use a date filter and search. Let's try that again here.
And keeping in mind, we are looking at Phil's test database, which would explain why he had little results back. And now by pulling out his filter there, we do now have items showing.
So I can sort by the title here, or we can sort by the total number of circulations here. So I believe that answers the question. Again, we can move the total search over so we could get everything in a little bit tighter of a screen there. And then also to piggyback on that answer, that question may be related to acquisitions. We do actually have a report within LS2 Reports, which will show you items that have high number of holds and activity in a ratio versus the number of copies available. So if by chance that was related to acquisitions, there is a report in LS2 Reports specifically for a ratio situation or scenario.
Okay, Phil, we have not had any other questions come in, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's session. Phil, thank you very much for the presentation on lists and actions, and I would like to thank all of our attendees for attending today's session. Again, this is functionality found within LS2 Staff, which is part of the Library.Solution platform. If you would like more information on that, always feel free to reach out to us, and there are takeaways on this webinar as well in case you need any additional information sheets. Please join us next week for user experience design in library software and why it matters. This will be a dive into UX or user experience design that you find in some of our software. Thank you all very much for attending. Everyone, please stay safe and healthy, and we will see you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.